This is what happens when you combine Bonfire with Fire Cages and a single IO that converts knockback into knockdown called sudden acceleration. You turn knockdown into lockdown. This is something I like to call the dance party because it looks like they're at a shitty disco where they're not having a good time. This combination does really decent damage. I'm not using anything here but Fire Cages and Hot Feet to burn them down. But this is just the control of using Bonfire with Fire Cages while using sudden acceleration. It's that simple. I'll explain why. Bonfire is overlooked for its value a lot of the time because this is what it normally does. I'm going to throw Bonfire without rooting them with Fire Cages and watch. They're immediately thrown out of it. Now this does offer you some protection because it does prevent them from running in the space. You can see them getting knocked down. But look, they're still coming after me. They're throwing range attacks. I'm going to be taking damage. There's no amount of control here. The battlefield is not in my control, and we don't want that. Without sudden acceleration, this does work. It is manageable. But what happens is when your Fire Cages break, some of these guys are going to get thrown away, which means they're not really in the soft lockdown anymore. See, there it is, and I'm starting to take damage because I can't throw down Bonfire that often. It's on a decent cooldown, but there it is, perfect. I'm so glad I got that in the footage. Now I can't use this combo anymore because even if I Bonfire them over here and they're Fire Caged, Bonfire's on cooldown and these guys are no longer on lockdown, lockdown. So we don't want to do it that way. Let's put sudden acceleration back in and I'll show you some more cool stuff. But that's why I absolutely love this fire controller build, because you can take this and pair it with whatever you want and this combination will work as long as you put sudden acceleration into Bonfire and you use Fire Cages to root them. So the damage that we're doing here is coming from Fire Cages, and Bonfire does a little bit of damage, and Hot Feet, which is a power that a lot of fire controllers overlook. If we take a look at what Hot Feet does, it actually creates a fear effect and it slows them from running away. So even when the Fire Cages break, or if you're using single target hold, which is, or single target immobilize, which is Ring of Fire, when the Fire Cages or Ring of Fire breaks, they're gonna immediately still get knocked down, and they're gonna stay in the general area, and you're gonna stay in control until the next time that you can cast Fire Cages, which is awesome. So this build of controller that I'm playing, I opted to go with Trick Arrow as my secondary, because it kind of brings in a lot of the value of radiation, but without having to deal with the toggles. I want to keep my mental overhead clear while I am using this soft knockdown, lockdown thing that I like to call, and just throw the arrows without having to worry about toggles. The other thing I love about Trick Arrow is Oil Slick. Oil Slick is immediately ignited by Fire Cages or immediately ignited by Hot Feet, which adds even more damage to the build. And Disruption Arrow, which you get right around here, reduces their damage resistance, which increases all of your damage that you're dealing to them. All the damage from Fire Cages, Bonfire, Hot Feet, everything that you do will have damage increased by Disruption Arrow. And then Oil Slick Arrow creates another knockdown, not knock back, but knock down, and immediately ignites. This is the rotation that I use to kick this off. I'm going to throw my AoE Flash Fire Stun, not my hold, because it's on a very short cooldown in comparison. So I can get in here safely, set up the combo. This is perfect. This is exactly why you want knockdown here. These guys are not rooted, but they're not being thrown away by Bonfire. I recast Fire Cages, and now they're in knockdown, lockdown, baby. So I'm going to throw Disruption Arrow right here, and I'm going to throw Oil Slick Arrow immediately ignited, and then I'm just going to keep casting Fire Cages. You notice they're dying? I'm not really trying to do a lot of damage here. They're on lockdown, and the damage is kind of being done for me just by keeping the Bonfire here and keeping Fire Cages on them. This is a single origin enhancement build. I'm not using any IOs except for sudden acceleration to create this effect. Now, if I want to increase damage on lieutenants, I'm going to cast Char to hold them, or I'm going to cast Ring of Fire, because Ring of Fire actually does a decent amount of damage. And by the way, all damage is doubled when they're being contained. The controller containment bonus is active during most of this stuff, which is awesome. Flash Arrow, we can blind stuff, so we can make sure that we don't get ads from the other groups. And we're going to do knockdown, lockdown on this middle group, and let's see how this goes, dude. Let's dive in with the pets. They're currently on passive, but I'm going to tell them to attack a target and just let them go wild. We're going to open up with stun. Fire Cage them. Bonfire. I have Hot Feet turned on, and I'm issuing the attack order on this guy. Recast fire cages. Disrupt arrow. Lower their damage resistance. Oil slick arrow. Get them burning. Minions are dying. This plays... The standard for this channel is that it has to be able to solo on 4x. I'm currently running on 8x, and I can run any villain group that I want, because the knockdown effect does not care if it's Sky Raiders, Freak Show, or whatever. This build works against any VG because knockdown is a little less resisted by bad guys than the other control effects in the game. I'm not trying to hold them, I'm not trying to stun them, except for when I'm breaking into combat. I'm just trying to knock them down, which works on a lot of bosses. Alright, so here's a Dominator. This is a fire control Dominator with fire secondary. Again, you could choose any secondary you want. I will walk you through some suggested secondaries if you want to play this. This is level 22 Dominator. This whole build comes online at level 22. As soon as you get Bonfire, and you will have an easy time leveling to get there, because you get Hot Feet early, you get Stun at, I think, level 12, you get Fire Breath almost immediately, and you get Combustion around level 16, I think. Yeah, level 10, level 16 to get Combustion. This is all SOs, with the exception of using one knockback to knockdown with sudden acceleration. Okay, this is a level 22 Dominator, but it's the same concept. What we're going to do is just be a little bit more careful and make sure that fire cages stick, because I'm not going to show you this with domination active. That's like the easy mode way to do it. I'll show you the way that it's going to work all the time for you if you try this build. I'm going to make sure, I'm just going to slow down just a little bit and make sure that my fire cages sticks, but we always open with flash fire to stun them. We want to get in there safely. We don't want to catch aggro while we just walk up there, because we're going to take Alpha Strike to the face, which is not good for controllers. Alright, fire cage is stuck. Throwing Bonfire. I'm going to throw fire cages one more time. And now I'm going to do Combustion to do some damage. And we're going to start casting Fire Breath. And we're going to be able to do damage ourselves, rather than just standing around letting these things get killed slowly. But we're still doing the same thing. You get to decide in these build options whether you want it to be a Dominator or whether you want it to be a controller. I think they're both great options. It's up to you whether you want to be focused on control or whether you want to be focused on control and damage. If you want to be support, go controller. If you want to do more damage, go Dominator. Okay, so you're building, if you're going Dominator, obviously you're picking fire control. I would start definitely with using Ring of Fire. It actually does a decent amount of damage to help you get started. Fiery Assault is a pretty cool option. I think it's maybe the best option if you want to focus on damage. It's because we get Fire Breath, we get a Conical, we get Combustion, which is like a mini fireball type of thing, but it's right in the middle of everything, and you're standing in the middle usually when you're playing this build. And we get Embrace of Fire, which significantly boosts the damage of all fire attacks for a while, which means Hot Feet from the primary power set is going to receive benefit from that, as well as Bonfire. So we get 2 AoEs and we get direct, we get damage on top of that. If it was me, I might also take a look at Thorn Burst and Thorn Trops, which would synergize, as well as you get Ripper and Fling Thorns. These are all AoEs that you get a hold of through Thorny Assault, which would be cool. So, I don't know, but any of these work. Try whatever you want, but those are the ones I recommend. Let's take a look at what controller options work really well. Now, if you're going to do this build, I would recommend controller, but I just did want to demonstrate that it works with Dominators pretty much the same way. Same thing, same combination here. They both get Fire Imps, by the way, which is awesome. Now, the secondary power sets that I would recommend taking a look at, I use a lot of Marine Affinity, so it's hard. That's the only reason I didn't select it, is that my account is full of Marine Affinity characters. This channel has a lot of Marine Affinity, so I'm trying to, like, branch out and do different things. But if you want to do Marine Affinity, it would be pretty rad, because Soothing Wave would heal you and the little bit of damage that you'll take from the range attacks that are coming through, and not many come through, but you've seen it in the footage coming through. Soothing Wave will help you heal that, and when you cast it, you would also be debuffing the damage that the mobs deal to you. Toroidal Bubble gives you damage resistance. Whitecap lowers their damage resistance, knocks them down, which would, I mean, it's pure synergy right there, and teleports you around in combat, which I love. Tide Pull also slows them without alerting them, so you could do that before you open with the stun. Brine would help you kill bosses, which would work really well. Shifting Tides and Barrier is always awesome, and so is Power of the Depths. So #1 recommendation that you should try would be to look at Marine Affinity. Another combination that I think a lot of people would be excited to try is Radiation Emission. This is almost my top recommendation if you're not going to do Marine Affinity. Radiation Emission is a really great option, and these two things work beautifully together, and here's why. The knockdown lockdown combo is holding them in one position, which means they're rooted immediately, right? And they're stunned, which gives you plenty of time to turn on the radiation infection as well as enervating field. And then radiation players know that these two things are great, but they're a little tricky to use because the guys are all moving around, and you know that those toggles are kind of have a tight area of effect. But when you're combining this with knockdown lockdown, like I've just shown you in this video, holy shit, like these things are just easy to use. And the other thing is accelerate metabolism is awesome for this build because it increases your attack speed, so it increases our recovery. It increases your damage of you and your team, and it increases your recovery, which is great, your endurance recovery for this, because controllers, it's common that you run into a little bit of endurance problems because you're using a lot of heavy endurance powers over and over. Lingering radiation also works beautifully in this combo because it slows them, and like, I don't know, mwah, cherry on top is choking cloud. This will set up a cloud around you that just is a constant hard hold, and you'll get access to a secondary stun, an EM pulse. So radiation is pretty awesome for that. You do get an AoE heal, which is always helpful. So take a look at Radiation Emission. You also, if you just want to go for theme, you could try Thermal Radiation, but this is a little bit more group oriented with the buffs, buffing other things. But these buffs work on your imps. So Melt Armor reduces their damage resistance, and Forge will work on your imps. If you want a fire cool theme that would work really well, this is a really good option, dude. But any of these will work. I personally went with Trick Arrow in the demonstration because I don't want toggles and I didn't want buffs. I just wanted to throw debuffs on the guys and not worry about toggles at all. So I would Trick Arrow is what I went with, but you could do any of these things and it will work. This is a really fun idea because like all the other builds I've suggested to you have been kind of specific. This one's kind of a choose your own adventure thing. Like whatever you want to do will work. You get to choose it. But I hope this has been fun. You're going to need sudden acceleration. At the time of this video recording, those are 5 million on Homecoming Excelsior. It's not too expensive, or you could craft it yourself, obviously for a little bit cheaper if you're into crafting. Personally, I don't do much crafting, but yeah, any of these would work. I would recommend, if you made me choose between Dominator or Controller for this, I would go Controller, because overall, for a Controller, it does pretty good damage. I want to be able to just watch the battlefield. I don't necessarily want to be jumping around doing attacks. I have enjoyed playing the Dominator to 22, and I built and rolled that just for this video. I have enjoyed it, and I think it's fun, and if you prefer Dominators, I think you'll have a good time with it. But I think Controller is the way to go if I had to choose, and then you have so many good options as secondaries. The imps, usually, this is the other thing I love about it, is since you're doing knockdown, lockdown, imps usually die a lot. It's because they're just not tanky. But they're under such hard control options, and you have cinders sitting around, and you usually have flash fire easily available for hard AoE control. And so the imps they're not dying for me anywhere near as much as they usually do. Trick Arrow, I think, is my favorite. If I had to pick, I would say Trick Arrow is really cool. But any of these things would work. You could easily make a case for Storm Summoning, because you could literally lock them down and then use Hurricane to shove them into a really tight radius, and you'd be debuffing their chance to hit. And it is really fun. It's a really thematic set, but it's also really chaotic. So you could try it. Freezing Rain will reduce their damage resistance. Steamy Mist gives you stealth, which means you could run up on them and throw your stun without ever being seen, which would be really helpful. And Snowstorm is also always good, but you just don't really need it. But oh my god, Hurricane's really good as long as you have something to root them in place. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give me a like and subscribe if you don't mind. It really helps support the channel. I'm going to release this video, and I'm excited for you guys to try this out. Knockdown, lockdown. Get your dance party started with this build. Thanks for supporting the channel, guys.